All right, so today we are talking about something different in your body that is smaller than a golf ball. Interesting. All right. But it touches nearly every system in your body, your metabolism, your energy, your mood, and even your blood sugar. That's good for us to know. Right now, there are millions of people being treated for the wrong problem with this body part, or they're not being treated at all because the standard blood test lots of times misses it. So, if you haven't figured this out yet, today we are going to be talking about the thyroid gland. And like I said before, this is a topic that Dr. Saunders requested that we cover. So he's got some important information to share with you all. So some of the things we may learn today, we're going to talk about what the thyroid is and what it actually does. We're going to look for, or he's going to teach us about what the warning signs are that we should look for to know if our thyroid is struggling. And he's going to talk to us about the connection between your thyroid and blood sugar, which I don't know what that is. So I'm anxious to get going. Before we get started, though, I do need to remind everybody that the webinar here today is for educational purposes and it's not intended as medical advice. Please make sure you consult with your physician before making any changes to your diet or your supplement routine or exercise. All right, so Dr. Saunders, before we get into the warning signs, let's start at the very beginning. Give us a little bit of a crash course. What is the thyroid and what does it actually do?
Okay, this is so interesting. The complexity of the system and how everything fits together so well. The thyroid is a gland. It's right at the bottom of your neck. It's not like round like a golf ball. It's actually a butterfly that normally you don't see. It's not there. One time I was at a friend's house and I was eating dinner and my wife was there and we were all talking and his 16-year-old daughter sitting across from me and she's talking and I'm watching her eat and she swallows and her whole neck just when she swallowed it went like that, just lifted up and I'm like, oh, you have a goiter. And she goes, what? And I said did you know you had a goiter? She goes, and her dad says, oh yeah, we went to we ended up at the endocrinologist and they put her on thyroid medication. And I'm like, what? Gosh, that's the wrong thing to do. A goiter is an enlarged gland. The gland is being told, make more, make more, make more, make more. So the gland is getting bigger and bigger to make more and make more, but it can't make more because it doesn't have enough iodine. And this is like centuries old. Everybody knows this. This is not a new information. And now endocrinologists will not use iodine. It is so weird. Somebody did a study in Africa on and actually in Japan as well on Hashimoto's thyroiditis, autoimmune thyroid disease, and some of them get goiter, they get nodules in their thyroid, and when they gave them iodine, they get hyperthyroid. Well, it's because they were low thyroid because they didn't have any iodine, and that's why their gland's getting bigger. So all of a sudden, the gland kicks in, and boom, they got all this extra thyroid running around because they're making a lot more. If they were patient and start small, start low, then they would equilibrate and everything would be okay. But no, instead they said never give anybody iodine. So if you go to an endocrinologist and you have a thyroid problem, they'll say, "Oh no, no, don't take iodine. That's really bad for you. It'll cause hyperthyroidism." It does not cause hyperthyroidism ever. It causes temporary rise in thyroid and then down. So that's not hyperthyroidism. It is a brief period of temporary rise. So uh, the thyroid gland is the gland that tells your body um, where your general metabolism should be. So it's a regulator of general metabolism, and it's so general that everybody's a little bit different, where you need a little more, a little less, but it's like the same all the time, almost. During the summer, it goes down just a little bit. so that you're not hot. So people who live in hot climates like Florida, uh, they get their thyroid tends to be on the lower side. Um, and so people who live in colder climates, their thyroid tends to be on the higher side. And the reason for that is because the higher thyroid will raise your metabolism and raise your body temperature and keep things functioning even when you have outside more cold on the outside. So it's kind of like the thermostat in your home, keeping your temperature whatever you set it at, whatever you want it to be at. But that's not the purpose of the thyroid. That's just one thing that it does. Generally, it's pretty much the same. And it tells your body um, how much energy to make and how much to use, and on a very general basis. And it's kind of weird in that you have this T4 thyroid hormone. It's the one that if you take Synthroid or levothyroxine, that's a reservoir. So think of it like you have this lake up in the mountains. It's your reservoir, and you have a city down below, and you have this lake that's full. And then the pipe comes down into the city, and everybody in the city has a little faucet that turns it on. Those little faucets in the city represent the T3. The T3 is the active hormone. That's what actually tells those cells what to do and how fast to go and how much metabolism to make. And certain genes get turned on. So the active thyroid form is T3, not T4. So if you're taking a T4 supplement and you say, gosh, it's not working for me, it could be that your pipe is blocked somewhere between your T4 reservoir and the faucet down below. If your pipe's not working or if it's limited somehow, then you turn on the water in the spigot and just a little bit of water drips out. And so that's not enough. It's not working. So that's the analogy for T3 and T4. Some people do not tolerate just taking T4 because then they're taking more and more and more, but their pipeline's busted. So you got to fix the pipeline, and then the T3 starts working. And often you can get off thyroid entirely if you fix the the pipeline. So, your general metabolism, thyroid gland right here. The T4 is the reservoir. T3 is that reservoir. T4 is being converted, actively converted into the active T3. And so both of those need to be measured if you're concerned about the thyroid gland.
Interesting. I like that analogy of the pipeline. But what are the symptoms if someone's having thyroid problems? The most common signs and symptoms, if it's not working, it's blocked, or you can't turn that faucet on.
Okay, so there's two different ways to go. If you have too much thyroid, then you're going to be hot, and you're going to be hot all the time. And your heart's going to beat fast. You're going to tend to have like a tremor in your hand, nervousness, jitteriness. I had someone describe it to me like I'm being pushed all day long, like someone's behind me, like pushing, like I can't slow down. And that's hyperthyroidism. And there was a clinic in Los Angeles, a series of clinics, and they were making a ton of money. And they were weight loss clinics. And they said, well, what we're going to do is we're going to make you hyperthyroid so that you can lose weight. And of course, they had a lot of problems with that. They were getting people so much palpitations, they were getting atrial fibrillation, and they were sweating all the time. And they were so anyway, they shut them down. That actually wasn't a good idea. And then the other side is hypothyroidism, low thyroid. It's actually much more common to have low thyroid. Hyperthyroidism, high thyroid usually comes from some acute disease or autoimmune disease. Hypothyroidism, low thyroid, has a lot of different possibilities. Just, adrenal glands can affect the thyroid and everything else. So, the when you're low thyroid, you have the opposite. You're cold all the time. So the doctor will usually ask cold hands and cold feet. But it's not just that, but it could be. Yes, my hands and feet are cold all the time, but I'm not cold. But if your hands and feet are all cold all the time and you're going outside in 70 or 80-degree weather with a sweater on or a jacket and saying, or having to like wear extra clothing, where you don't tolerate the cold at all. If you go out in the cold, you shiver like even if it's 50 degrees outside, you're shivering. You might be low in thyroid, but there are some other things to look at. If you're really low, people usually describe it to me like I'm slogging through jello. Like I have to push myself to get anything done. It's not that I'm tired, it's just like I have to push to do anything. And then constipation and hair falling out. That's a funny thing. You actually lose hair. Um, People often say if the sides of your eyebrows are lost, that's a common one. And that is one reason for that, but some people just lose the lateral parts of their eyebrows anyway. But the hair falling out, that is a thing. There are other hormones that do that, other reasons for that. But the constellation of symptoms, if you're constipated and you're cold and you're feeling slow and sluggish all the time and your hair is falling out, then you've probably got a thyroid, low thyroid.
Okay, let's talk a little bit about testing. How do we know if we're having if our thyroid is having issues and how accurate, like I know we've talked that, doctors tend to misdiagnose thyroid issues. So what's going on with the testing?
Okay, here's the thing about testing. If you go to a doctor, doctors will test one test only. It's a screening test. It's not bad as a screening test, but it's called a TSH. TSH is thyroid stimulating hormone. It's not a thyroid hormone at all. So when you're doing the screening test, you're not testing the thyroid gland. You're testing the pituitary gland, the one in your head that's the controlling gland that controls your thyroid. And so why that? Well, because that's the control to say if you have enough or not. Because if your pituitary gland is saying, "Hey, make more thyroid," that means we don't have enough. So if your TSH is high, it means your thyroid is low or probably is low. If your TSH is low, that means your thyroid is probably too high. And that's why that's a screening test. It's not that that's a bad test. It's that it's inconsistent and doesn't take into account all of the possible things that could go wrong. So you could have other problems that cause you to have low thyroid, and the TSH will be normal. So there's something called euthyroid hypothyroidism, and that's where your TSH is normal, but you have low thyroid. And there's a reason for that. It's because the enzyme in the brain is a different enzyme than the deiodinase enzyme in most of your body. So your body is using one enzyme, and if that's not functioning properly, or if that is shut off for some reason, and one of the reasons is when you're stressed. So you're under a lot of stress for a long period of time, and you're making all this cortisol from your adrenal glands, so your adrenal stress, right? And what one of the things cortisol does, it shuts down the enzyme that converts the T4, that's the pipeline, it blocks the pipeline so that you have only a little trickle coming through. And you're making something else called reverse T3. And reverse T3 is the opposite. It's like the T3 is the right hand, and the reverse T3 is the left hand. And they look pretty much the same and they match pretty nicely, but you can't really fit your left hand into your right-handed glove. It just doesn't work. And that's what happens with the thyroid. You have this reverse T3 that blocks the receptor and doesn't stimulate it because it doesn't quite fit right. And so now you have low thyroid, even though everything looks normal. To the pituitary gland, it looks normal. So it's not adequate just to do the TSH. Now, if you had a screening test, you did the TSH, and somebody had no symptoms and the TSH is normal, fine. Fine. Or if someone has no symptoms and the TSH is high, then you go, I wonder why that is. And then you can look for the reason why. Or if TSH is low, either way. So as a screening test, it's not bad. But if somebody continues to have symptoms, if they're saying, I'm just slow and sluggish and I cold all the time and I'm brain fog and I'm constipated all the time, and their TSH is normal, you need to dig deeper. There's something going on there. And so the tests include TSH, of course, you need that one. And the free T4, not the total T4. Total T4 is the total amount you had. The free T4 is what's actually available to your body. And then the free T3 for the same reason. And then reverse T3 is another one. And then you need an antibody test called TPO, thyroid peroxidase. And that's the enzyme that makes these substance, the T4 and the T3. Um,
Are
so
these all blood tests?
and these are all blood tests. Yeah, yeah, yeah. So those five tests are adequate to say what's going on with my thyroid gland.
Is there anything people can do at home before they get their blood work done to check if they have thyroid problems?
Okay, so if you have symptoms, that's a good enough check that you have thyroid problems. So if you say, gosh, my hands are ice cold all the time, or every time you reach for your partner's hand and you go, wow, your hands are warm, they go, your hands are cold. And you're putting a sweater on and it's 80 degrees outside and your hair's falling out, then and you're constipated, or you may have not have all of those symptoms, but if you have some of them, then there are things you could do without having to go to a doctor and test the thyroid. You can do the simple things that are just easy to do. So simple things would be to start with iodine. And start with a low dose of iodine. You don't have to like saturate your body with a 50 milligram. I know there are people out, if you go on the internet and you see these people that are saying, so what you really need to do is flood your body with iodine. And there's something to that if you have bromine toxicity. Bromine and chlorine and fluoride all inhibit your iodine. They're in the same family, right? On the periodic table, and they displace the iodine. And so if you have high levels, you can be toxic on those. And while technically, if you did an iodine test in your body, if you have sufficient iodine, you got enough, your test is good. But if you have these other bromine, chlorine, and fluoride, uh, or I should say fluoride, bromide, chloride. um, they can inhibit your iodine, and so you actually don't have functionally you don't have enough, even though technically your level is normal, right? So what they're telling you is you have to put in a lot of iodine to displace these other um, uh, elements, toxic elements to the thyroid in order for things to start functionally. And sometimes that's important. So starting low and going up and you really can't get toxic on iodine. Yeah, if you took a lot for a long period of time, but your body you urinate out what you don't need pretty quickly. When you take a dose, within 24 hours, it's gone out of your body. And so whatever your thyroid gland took up and absorbed, and in women, the breast glands, and men, prostate gland, whatever the glands absorb, they get, and the rest of it is just you urinate. It goes out through your kidneys and it's gone. So they get that one dose. So taking huge doses, once in a while isn't really a very good. It's a smaller dose more frequently is a better idea.
And you're
Let's.
just taking iodine, or are you putting it on your skin?
Oh yeah, okay. Putting it on the skin has been used as a test. Because it's a salt. It doesn't really absorb very well. So it's not. If you need a significant amount of iodine, you could paint your whole skin with it and be red. No, and that's what people do with magnesium, right? You do that with magnesium. You put it all over, and but it doesn't turn you red like iodine will. So it's better to take it orally, and a good way to take it is called Lugol solution, and the reason is because it has the both the iodine and the iodide. So iodide with the D on the end is a salt. Iodine with the N on the end is the iodine molecule. So and so it has both, and they're actually used differently by the body. So if you get Lugol solution, it has both iodine and iodide, um, and you just start with one drop. You don't need a lot. One drop in water, drink it down, you're done. And then do that for a week, and then you can go to 2 drops and 3 drops and 4 drops. People who are detoxing have been up, 10 drops of the Lugol solution. Um, okay, did I? Okay, that's the iodine, right? And then the next thing to be sure you have enough of is selenium. Selenium is really important for the thyroid gland. In synachroma, we have selenium. So if you have diabetes and you're taking synachroma, you're taking selenium. Well, that's one of the reasons we put it in there, is because it's a common deficiency because it's mostly not found in our soils in the United States. And so, in order for you to normalize your blood sugar, you need good iodine. Um, you need good thyroid, and selenium is required for that pipeline to get from T4 down into the T3 to turn it on. That deiodinase enzyme requires iodine. I'm sorry, requires selenium.
How about
So
the D3? I read that D3 that is also in synochroma. Does D3 help with thyroid too?
Not the thyroid. Well, it affects the thyroid, but not in the ways that we're talking about making the thyroid. It's more works on the sensitivity and the metabolic function of thyroid, not on the production of thyroid. But selenium is required. If you don't have enough selenium, you're not going to make T3, and it's not because you're stressed. And you can take all the T4, and so the doctor says, "Oh, your TSH is high. Here, we'll put you on thyroid hormone," and then they give you the T4, but you're still not converting that to T3 because you don't have the pipeline is blocked. So you still have a problem. And I've actually seen that in several cases of people who are taking T4 more and more. And I test them, and their T4 is like really high and their T3 is really low. And I'm like, well, there's your problem. Your pipeline's busted. So first thing we do is start selenium because that's the most important way to get that pipeline working. And it's actually fairly common. There was some studies done on people um, with Hashimoto's thyroiditis, where they have the autoimmune thyroid. And the doctors in the United States say, oh, there's nothing you can do about it. But in other countries, like in Africa and Japan, they give them selenium and they get better. Their Hashimoto's goes away. So, there's always a way to handle it, right?
Absolutely. Okay, talk to us a little bit about the struggling thyroid and blood sugar. Like, what's the connection with the all insulin, all that? Is there a connection?
There's a connection in the sense that if your thyroid's not working, then your blood sugar, um, normally you use about 60% of your energy from fat and 40% from glucose. When the thyroid isn't working, you don't burn fat as effectively. And that's also what insulin does. So what it does is just compounds the effect of having insulin resistance. And so the problem is you're getting less energy, and you're supposed to be able to use this energy to make for your body, right? You're supposed to be able to use energy, but the low thyroid, you can't convert the T3 or whatever, then you're not able to use this extra energy. And so you're requiring more sugar to be used.
Trying to process that. Is it worth those who have type 2 diabetes asking their doctor about thyroid problems?
Oh yeah, always. Yeah, you know what? I test people, most people on an annual basis. I just do the thyroid panel. And if they have symptoms, of course. If they don't have any symptoms, I don't necessarily do it every year. But it's good to know if your thyroid's functioning.
Have
Yeah,
have you seen patients like improve their blood sugar once their thyroid is supported?
I can't think of a specific case of of the blood sugar getting better because of the thyroid, because we're always working on them, both of them together at the same time. So it's hard to say.
Okay, when we talked a couple weeks ago, you mentioned that the thyroid prescriptions are one of the most prescribed medications by doctors. Why do you think that is? And do you think all these people actually need that?
Oh, good question. Okay. All right, so this gets into important stuff. Okay. Um, One of the most common reasons for someone to visit a doctor is fatigue. And fatigue, tiredness, weakness. I'm just, brain fog. I'm just not functioning as well. I'm not like up to par. I'm not meeting my goals. I'm just tired all the time. And so the doctor will do a TSH test. And the TSH test comes back abnormal, and they just immediately put somebody on thyroid and T4. In the medical world, in the endocrinology world, the Armour thyroid and those medications that have the T4 and T3 in them have fallen out of favor. So they all just say T4. I've had a lot of patients with thyroid problems who go to an endocrinologist. They're doing fine on like Armour thyroid. And the endocrinologist, oh, we got to get you off that Armour thyroid and put you on levothyroxine. And sometimes it doesn't matter, and sometimes people need to get off Armour thyroid. That's a thing too. But just to anyway, so they're the most prescribed medications because people have problems with fatigue. And what do you do with it? Well, if your only medication for fatigue is a simple thyroid pill, well, here, try a thyroid pill. Sometimes the TSH is like, well, it's technically normal, but here, try a thyroid pill anyway. And then they tell somebody, okay, you're going to be on this for the rest of your life. You can't get off it. Because what the thyroid medication does is it shuts down the thyroid gland. And so your gland is just like, I don't need to make thyroid anymore because we're taking it by mouth. So once the thyroid gland shuts off, does it ever turn on again? Of course it does, but it takes a while. So rather than go through the process of turning on the thyroid gland, they say, just take it for the rest of your life. It doesn't have to be that way, though.
So, Dr. Saunders wrote an article about the thyroid. So, some of this content is from the article. We'll share that at the end. But I was reading through your article and it talked about how fluoride and bromide can interfere with the thyroid. So, brushing your teeth can make a difference. And bromide comes from bread. Is that right?
Yeah.
How does that all actually happen? How do those things interfere with your thyroid?
Bromide is a dough conditioner. So when you have huge batches of bread that you're making, the bromine in the bread is a dough conditioner that helps it so you can have make large batches of bread. So you don't have to do it by hand kneading. Um, and then fluoride, of course, in the toothpaste. But bromine is also being used in water now instead of chlorine. So bromine also works the same way. Iodine is good for uh, uh, what do they call it? Like chlorine disinfecting. So you can use chlorine, bromine, iodine, chlorine, bromine, iodine. What's the fluoride? Oh, you don't want to use fluoride; it's too strong. But all of them can are good disinfectants. And dough conditioner, actually, iodine works good as a dough conditioner, and they used to have that iodine in the dough, but then they switched to bromine because it's cheaper. And so now people, when you eat a lot of bread, you're going to get a lot of bromine, which it's a salt. It's not a big deal, but it does displace iodine. So if you're a borderline on iodine, then the fluoride, the bromide, the chloride can displace it, and now you're deficient. So now you can actually get thyroid nodules, goiter, low thyroid dysfunction because not because you're actually low. It's a toxicity just from having too much of the other things.
Okay, I'm going to go to a question in the chat about thyroid. Michelle wants to know, why do some doctors remove the thyroid of people with, how do you say it? Hashimoto's? Is that what it's
Yeah,
called?
Hashimoto's.
Yeah, why
Yeah.
do some doctors remove the thyroid?
Um, it, it, it's not necessary, but they do it out of convenience. So the convenience is, well, your thyroid's dysfunctional. Let's just remove it, and you can take a thyroid pill for the rest of your life, and you'll be fine. And then they just give you T4. Your thyroid gland is actually making T1, T2, T3, T4 in a combination, which is what you would get in the natural thyroids like a nature thyroid, NP thyroid, armor thyroid, all those. But they take out your thyroid gland, they just give you T4 and expect, the faucets to all work down below because your thyroid gland actually makes some T3, some active T3 that allows other cells in your body to function. Anyway, so why do they take out the thyroid? Because they say it's easier to just, if you're getting too much thyroid, just take it out and take a pill. You're good. I've seen a lot of cases of that too.
Convenience. All right, I dropped in the chat our Cinechroma link with the amazing amounts of selenium in it. So be sure to shop for that and use the code Saunders25 if you want to save 25% off your order. All right, Cheryl, did you have a question ready?
Well, I want to get you a question. A couple people have said that they've struggled with Hashimoto's. Can you give a quick definition of Hashimoto's before we go into their questions?
Okay, so Hashimoto's thyroiditis is an autoimmune disease against an enzyme primarily, but also proteins in the thyroid gland. The Hashimoto's is caused it's because it's the your own immune system is attacking these proteins in the thyroid gland, and it can either cause inflammation, where it causes a lot of thyroid, so you get hyperthyroid, too much, and you're shaking and sweating and all those problems. Um, or it can turn off the thyroid, prevent you from making thyroid. That's called TPO. And then you get low thyroid. So it can cause either high or low. It's an autoimmune disease, primarily against an enzyme called TPO, thyroid peroxidase, that is used to bake the tyrosine into the T4 and T3. So, so that's what it is. It's just an autoimmune disease. It's actually fairly common. It's not, it's all over the world. It's fairly common. It's not something that's rare.
From eating all that bread. No, I was going to go on to this anonymous attendee who was here by a good chance to ask this question. I have Hashimoto. Should I be taking pork or beef thyroid from standard processed supplements for life? How much selenium is it safe to take? How important is a gluten-free diet for life? And are more thyroid used to cause heart palpitations and had to switch to NP thyroid?
Huh. That's interesting. Okay. So, I think so. One of the things with Hashimoto's is do you have to take thyroid at all? And some people do, but not always. In fact, as I mentioned before, there are some studies to show that you can start taking selenium, and you take a good dose of selenium for a while. I always add on some other things. Get enough vitamin D. And by enough, that means like between 5 and 10,000. So like in Synachroma, we formulated it with 5,000 units of vitamin D a day. And if you take 2 pills a day, that's 10,000 units a day. And that's what it requires to overcome autoimmune kinds of problems. But another thing that you want to do is turn off the production of the TPO enzyme, because what the immune system is doing is cleaning up all this excess enzyme that's all over the place, that's that's dysfunctional or non-functional because there's no selenium in it. So you add the selenium and all of a sudden the enzyme functions, and then the cells stop making all the extra so that you don't have that autoimmune kind of problem. So the way out of this is to deal with the autoimmune disease. So selenium is very important, about 200 micrograms. That's what's in the synachroma. Up to 400 micrograms is okay. And so if you were to take 2 a day, that would be okay. Um, what was there? There were like 4 questions in
Yeah.
there.
Should they take pork or beef thyroid? And
Okay.
what is a gluten-free diet?
Okay. Good question. Okay. So every thyroid, um, every animal that makes thyroid makes the same molecule. So T4 is T4 in every animal, T3 is T3 in every animal. So they're all the same. But the combinations of how much T3 and how much T4 change. Pork is more like what a human thyroid makes in the ratios of the T4 to T3. Beef is okay. The ratio is a little different. And so you may have noticed that when you're changing from an armor thyroid to an NP thyroid, you may notice a difference because of the different ratio of T4 to T3.
And what about a gluten-free diet?
Okay, the gluten-free diet. The gluten-free diet, the answer is it necessary? No, it's not necessary unless it's necessary. So if you've tested positive and you have a problem with gluten, then you should be off gluten. Your intestines have to work properly. And the other thing is your immune system is trained in your gut. And so if you've got all this gut inflammation, then you're going to tend to get autoimmune disease much easier too. So if you react to gluten, then you should be off gluten for life. Yeah, that's it's kind of a genetic problem that, yeah.
Okay. Lily wants to know if taking 45 milligrams armor thyroid and normal TSH, how to tell how much iodine to take, how to tell the relationship between the amount of iodine to take and thyroid meds.
Hmm. Okay. Don't equate the two. Like just separate them out and say, okay, if I'm on a armor thyroid, 45 is a pretty low dose, so that's fine. And that's a supplemental dose. So that means your thyroid gland is working somewhat. So taking iodine is reasonable. And the amount of iodine you take, okay, let me put it this way. When one of the tests for iodine sufficiency is to take 50 milligrams of iodine. That's like 10 drops of Lugol solution. So you take this huge dose of iodine. A normal dose of iodine would be like 50 micrograms, like 1/1000th of that. So this is a huge dose of iodine. And then collect the urine for the next 24 hours. And if you should be secreting about 95% of all of that iodine you should collect in your urine in the next 24 hours. And if you collect less than that, it means your body's soaking up iodine. It means you don't have enough. So that's the test. And think about that. Okay, so what happens if I take too much? Oh, I pee it out in 24 hours. That's all. So there isn't like this myth that I was telling you about before, that if you take iodine, you're going to get hyperthyroid or you can get toxic on iodine. And the answer to that is no, not really. That's not the way it works. You can take iodine. If you take too much, you're going to pee it out.
All right, another question about Hashimoto's. How is Hashimoto's treated and can it be resolved? Should our T3 and free T3 be measured and can it be balanced?
Okay. So, the first thing to do with Hashimoto's is the simplest thing. Get enough selenium, take it for a while, and I say vitamin D as well. And that's where like Synachroma comes in because it's going to have both of them in the right doses. And after 90 days, then retest, see how you're doing, and keep doing that. So that's the first thing to do. But like the other person was saying about the gluten-free diet, if you have intestinal inflammation, you've got to take care of that first. If you don't take care of that, you're not going to fix this. And so just taking the supplement isn't enough if your gut is inflamed. So deal with those three things. That's how Hashimoto's is treated. Those are the first things to start with. And then the other one was testing the T3 reverse T3, free T3 and reverse T3. Yeah, they should both be tested because if you don't test the free T3, then you don't know how much of that hormone is being made by your body, and you don't know how your pipeline is working between your T4 and T3 and the taps down on the bottom. So your reservoir, your lake is up there, but if the taps aren't working, then yeah, we got plenty of the T4. But if your pipeline's busted, then it doesn't work. So how do you know unless you test both of them? The reverse T3 is interesting. That's made more like the stress part I was telling you about before. As your stress level goes up, the deiodinase enzyme isn't working as well, and so you actually get more of the reverse T3. And so as your reverse T3 increases, you're blocking the thyroid, so it shuts down your metabolism, and you feel like low thyroid, like nothing's working, and this is awful. And then they measure your uh, T4 and T3 and TSH and everything. Nope, everything's good. It's not your thyroid, but they didn't measure the reverse T3. So they didn't see the fact that you had this blocking enzyme or blocking T3.
Interesting. All right, Rosalind wants to know, can you eat too much seaweed if you have hypothyroidism? And should you take iodine if you have hyperthyroidism, she said.
Okay. Very good question. Okay. So, seaweed, I don't know that there's a limit to seaweed. It's interesting. At Costco, they have these seaweed chips. I don't know, they come and you peel it off and they're crunchy, crunchy seaweed, right? And I looked up how much iodine. They have about 4 to 5 milligrams of iodine. It's a lot of iodine. It's not micrograms. Seaweed has a significant amount of iodine. But what's interesting, people think that sea salt has iodine. No iodine in sea salt. The sea vegetables like seaweed concentrate iodine, so they suck up iodine and they bring it in and hold on to it. So yeah, the seaweed will have iodine, and I don't think there's a limit. I don't know that there is. And then the other question was, should you take iodine? This is really interesting if you have high thyroid, and that's a good question. No. Don't take iodine if you have high thyroid. That's unlikely to be your problem. Find out why you have high thyroid, because sometimes that's Graves' disease. And Graves' disease is, again, an autoimmune disease against the thyroid. And it has a lot of other effects. And it's not just the thyroid, because, that's where the eyes bug out like a Volkswagen. Uh, 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 and so it's a good idea to find out why you have Graves' disease and work on the autoimmune disease the same way you would with like the Hashimoto's.
Okay, here's a different type of thyroid problem. My wife had uterine cancer and had chemotherapy, nuclear therapy, and finally immunotherapy. My goodness. She's recovered, thank goodness, but it seems the immunotherapy caused hypothyroid conditions. She's taking medications, but they say it is for life as there are no permanent cure. Are there any solutions?
It depends. If the thyroid's working at all, then it's possible, but you don't get the thyroid back, but your TSH can turn on your thyroid. It depends on how much of the gland is left. If you don't have any thyroid gland, you're pretty much stuck with taking an oral pill for the rest of your life. Yes, that's true. So if the thyroid gland is completely dysfunctional, non-functional because of the therapy, cancer therapy, then you do need to take it. So, but even then, okay, let's say they're putting you on a pill and your pill is T4, and that you still have to do all of the tests and say, they're giving me the reservoir. I'm filling up my reservoir with my pill that I'm taking, but am I making the T3 enough for my body to function properly? Because just filling that up doesn't automatically make your pipeline work. It doesn't automatically make your faucets work. You have to make sure that the whole thing is functional.
Okay, let's get a blood sugar question in here. We're at the end here. James wants to know, he says, my blood sugar drops to 3.6 at night. I'm taking insulin and have played with different amounts per shot. Problem remains. I've decided to stop taking insulin and now my numbers are normal. Is this okay?
Yes, good thinking. See, that's the thing. Um, you have to think for yourself, and you have to apply. So doctors are providing information for a general population. Doctors, we all work on what are called a bell curve. And so the bell curve and everybody has to fit into the bell curve. If you don't fit into the bell curve, then you're an outlier. So the information is always general information for everyone, and then you have to apply it specifically to you. So you go to your doctor says, okay, you have to take this much insulin and do this and this and this, and but that's general information. That's not for you specifically. Everything that they give you is general information. So then you apply it to yourself and you say, gosh, I'm getting hypoglycemic and that's kind of dangerous. So maybe I shouldn't be taking that much insulin. So I go off insulin and I'm like, my blood sugars are normal. So the point is to keep your blood sugars normal. That's it. That's the point. And that's the end goal. The end goal is not to take a certain amount of insulin. That's what your doctor told you to do so that your blood sugar can be normal. But if you can keep your blood sugar normal in any other way, that's the goal, not the insulin.
All right, someone wants to know how much berberine can you take per day? This John says, I strange thing, I'm hearing you with all of reverb effect. It's maddening. I don't know if that's your computer. I'm not sure if it's related to berberine, but I've
Does
heard you
everybody else hear it?
know,
No. Okay.
heard you say 1, 2, and 3 berberine a day.
One, two, and three. Yes. One is insufficient. Two, so we formulated our berberine at Barton Publishing. Our Barton Nutrition. We formulated our berberine to be taken twice a day. So we use a higher dose. But most of the doses are around 400 and 500 milligrams, and that would be 300 or 3 times a day. And the thing about berberine is it does not last long in the body. It's not well absorbed and it doesn't last long in the body. So, one of the things that we did for absorption is to add milk thistle to it. And that helps the liver and it helps absorption and it lasts a little longer. And so we have formulated it to be taken twice a day. So that's why you hear it twice. But if someone just has a regular 500, 400 milligram berberine from the store, then they should probably be taking it 3 times a day.
All right. Do you have time for one last question or are you,
Sure.
okay. So for someone who's listening today, what do they do with all this information? Like what does a good, what would you offer them to be like, how can we take care of our thyroid, make sure things are working well? Just what should we do with all of this information? What can you recommend just for good thyroid health?
Okay. Don't think about your thyroid. That's not much of a great, except for like two things that you can do to like 80% of people would be fine if they did two things. If they took a couple of supplements, and that would be iodine and selenium. Why? Because iodine is a common deficiency, and because we get so much of the anti-iodine, the bromine, fluoride, chloride in our water and in everything else, that an iodine supplement's a good idea. And then selenium. So selenium, 200 micrograms a day ish. And then the second thing is to fix the gut, the intestines. So repair your gut, fix that so that you're absorbing things well, you're not getting autoimmune disease. And I think if people just did those two things, I think like 90% of our thyroid problems would go away.
Interesting how that the gut is tied to so many other areas of our health. It comes up a lot. I think today is the first webinar ever that I have not heard you use the word fasting. Does
Yeah, you know
fasting
what?
have nothing to do with the thyroid? Or does that, okay, we found
Mhm.
one.
Yeah.
Oh, I have to tease you about that. Thank
Yeah.
you, Dr. Saunders. We
You're welcome.
appreciate your time. Bye.
Bye.
Oh my goodness. He is a fan of fasting and I am as well. I am as well. But I just thought of that at the end. I'm like, oh my goodness, we have not heard that one time.
You're right. That's funny.
Shocking. I know. All right, so let's take care of some things and then we're gonna announce who our winner was. All right, so we've dropped some things in the chat. I mentioned earlier I dropped the link for Cinechroma and as well as the discount code Saunders25. He's talked a lot about that selenium in Cinechroma and the vitamin D and all the different things. I also dropped the link if you would like to watch today's replay on YouTube. I've got the link to our YouTube channel. And then Cheryl, what did you drop today?
Have one of the articles that Dr. Saunders just wrote about thyroid, and then another Home Cures that Work article about thyroid. There's actually 4 this month about thyroid. So I recommend going to the Home Cures that Work website. There is one specifically about Hashimoto's. So visit homecuresthatwork.com and you'll hear probably some of the same information, but be able to read it, digest it, absorb it in form, and then take it to your doctor.
Okay.
And then we also put the berberine product there because our milk thistle inside the berberine makes it a superior product than what you're just going to buy at Walmart.
Absolutely. Yeah, the absorption, that's really important, the milk thistle for that for sure. All right, so we had our question earlier, and here we are. So we wanted to know what part of the body was the main topic of last week's webinar alongside diabetes, and the answer is your eyes, or we talked about vision health. And so congrats to Lily G. She was our first correct answer. Good job, Lily. You have won 2 bottles of Eagle Eye Vision. We want to help you protect your eye health. So Lily, if you would connect with me by emailing me at webinar@bartonpublishing.com, I will get those 2 bottles of Eagle Eye Vision shipped out to you. I also dropped in the chat, if any of you have email topic suggestions or questions, you can email that same address, webinar@bartonpublishing.com. And we would love to hear what you would like us to cover. We want this webinar to be valuable for you. So please make sure to drop us a line there. Cheryl, what are other ways that people can get a hold of us?
Why are you asking? Because I'm just about putting this ready to put it in the chat. So there's a Facebook community for the webinar. I'm seeing some good things going on there. So I'll put that in the chat in a second for those of you watching in the replay or on YouTube, Facebook, our webinar, Facebook community is probably like your good follow-up after the webinar.
Absolutely, absolutely. And the name of the Facebook community, if you're searching for it and can't find it, it's Barton Webinar Community. And the name of our YouTube channel, if you're searching, is Barton Publishing Webinars. And the last thing I want to say is invite your friends and family. We want as many of your loved ones as possible to join us. So ask them to consider joining the webinar and asking their questions. And they can register at bartonwebinar.com. And they can join us here each week and ask their questions as well.
Yeah, we got to there were questions we didn't get to. Unfortunately, Jody and I are not Dr. Saunders and can't speak to them, but there were a couple other people who got the correct answer. Beverly, you were one of them. You got eye health. You put that in the Q&A. Congratulations.
Mhm.
You remembered what last week was about.
Yes, yes. And if you did not get your question answered this week, come on back next week and bring it here, and we will make sure that we get it answered. Or if you do join that Facebook group, I put a post out every Tuesday and I ask what questions you'd like to have answered on the webinar. So all you need to do is go there and drop your question in, and I will add it to the list and make sure that Dr. Saunders answers it. So next week, watch for that Facebook post and drop your question there. So lots of ways that you can get your questions answered.
And we'll just put in the chat, can't copy chat. So you should be able to go to the end of the comment. There's 3 buttons. Click on one of Click on that, and then it'll show up copy or delete. I think that's for everybody. You can copy that from there, or just
Mhm.
click on it.
Yes. And we also try, if you do go out to the YouTube channel, I also try to put a lot of these links in the description on the YouTube channel as well. So if you missed a link or something, lots of times you can find them there as well. But you should be able to copy from the chat. Should. But shoot us an email, Will, if you're having trouble with whatever you did not get. We can always give you the email or give you the link that way as well.
Yeah, webinar at bartonpublishing.com or support at bartonpublishing.com.
Absolutely. All right. Well, thank you everyone for joining us today. And congratulations again, Lily. Make sure you send me that email, and I will be sure to get you your Eagle Eye Vision sent out to use for your vision health. And we look forward to seeing you all back here again next week, same time, 2 o'clock Eastern. We will be back next week with another topic with Dr. Saunders. Had some requests of topics coming up. So they're going to be good ones. It's information that he feels is really important. So make sure you're joining us.
I really like it when he comes up with his ideas because he's packed full of knowledge. And let me tell you one thing, this guy researches and researches, researches. So
He does. He does. What he is speaking is coming from information that he has gathered. Yeah, by all means, he's doing the research and putting the hard work in, and we all get to reap the benefits. So it is a wonderful thing for all of us.
yeah.
All right. Well, you all have a great week, and we look forward to seeing you back next week.
Bye all.
Thanks. Bye-bye.